Welcome back into the Dead Arm Sports Podcast, coming at you live on a Wednesday. We are coming at you after the super duper divisional round. We're going to break that down today and have a lot of golf for you due to Farmers Open starts Wednesday this week. So Wednesday to Saturday, so they don't compete with the NFC, AFC championship games. So we've got that preview for you at the end of the pod.
Do you have any idea if they're doing that the weekend of the Super Bowl as well?
Probably not. Always usually ends like right when the Super Bowl starts. Yep.
Yeah.
And both are in Phoenix this year too, Super Bowl and obviously the Waste Management. So
that's going to be such an insane week for that Phoenix area.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah,
I wish imagine just being
jealous.
out there. Hey, be so great being out there.
Yes. All right. QOTD, told you a little bit before we hit the record button, Joe. Might have to tweak this one, but kind of had an idea going in my head today that I was back and forth on golf-related question. And I want to essentially know, would you rather own your own golf course? So you have your current job now. So you're just not out there all the time or whatever. So you have your current job, whatever. You own your own golf course.
So I can still afford my own golf course. Correct, with my current salary.
That was given to you and all expenses paid with it. So what
an inheritance.
Yes. So it's fully staffed. It's mowed. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. It's private. So literally it is yours. You can invite members if you wanted to, or you could just say that, all right, this is my own private course. I just show up when I want, play golf when I want, and that. Or would you rather only get to play golf once per week, but you can play at essentially any course that you could now, and it's for free?
I'm taking my own course.
Okay.
I mean, you're talking about any course right now that I can play?
But you could go to out to Torrey Pines. You could, wherever you went to play golf, it would be free. You would not have to pay for it, but you get to play.
Still couldn't go play at all Augusta. These country clubs. I couldn't play at Augusta. So it'd have to be public courses only, I guess. If under these terms, if I got my own golf course, fuck, I'm sleeping there, man. That's my home. I'm not going home. I'm staying there. So, and if you're talking, it's fully staffed and everything. Plus, if it's my own course, it'd be free anyways. I mean, if you're out there every single day, maybe you get sick of it. But shit, people that are country club members, like you are, do you get sick of your quote unquote home course that you got really. Your membership?
But right. I do dabble at other courses throughout the summer though. What if
is my course the only one I can ever play?
Well, let's change it. It is the only course you can play for the rest of your life.
Oh, that makes it a little bit tougher. I mean,
so no more going and playing and outings.
So I couldn't go to the outing.
Traveling to play golf at all, but you could invite people and have your own outing, but it would have to be at your course. You could only play your
that
course.
Does change things up quite a bit. I do switch my option to play once a week for free wherever. I mean, if I ever am in the scenario where I am invited to, a golf outing for work and I'm like, oh, sorry, I can't go. I can only play at the course that I own. What the hell's wrong with you? No, I'd probably maybe that does change things up a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
I like the hat, by the way. I didn't catch that right off the bat. Yeah. Hashtag PNW.
Hashtag PNW. Yeah. You YouTube viewers, you can check it out on YouTube. Go there now. But yeah, I think I'm right there with you on that. I like the variety. Even having a membership somewhere is nice, but you still want to get out and play every once in a while, and you want to be able to play with friends, or like you said, what does that make you look like if someone's like, oh, hey, do you want to go play this weekend? You're like, well, if you want to come to my course, I'm not going to go play yours.
Okay, tool.
I can't play yours.
Okay, what dick. A dick.
Right. We can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. I mentioned you can go to YouTube. You can see Gel rocking his nice Dallas Stars hat as well with his fire blazing in the background.
Fire's roaring today, ladies and gentlemen.
Burn down your apartment. But go to YouTube, type in Dead Arm Sports, subscribe, click the bell there. That way you know when our live episodes drop. We monitor that chat so that way you can ask us any questions there. And you can find Gel at DasGel. That's at DASJEL. I can be found at DasJPEC. That's at DASJPEC. Send us in any questions there on our socials. Otherwise, at Dead Arm Sports again, and subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. Send us a screenshot, and you will get some swag in the mail for free. All right, Gel, NFL super duper divisional round recap. Not as exciting overall of a weekend as the prior weekend. I guess super wild card weekend was super compared to this divisional
compared
round.
To the super duper divisional round.
Yes.
I will say I'm going to give myself a little bit of a golf clap here and taking a commanding 2-0 lead in our pick'em against the spread. Had the Cowboys over the Bucks in week 1, or I guess super wild card weekend, and then this past week, you had the Giants. I took the Eagles with the even considering that 7 points, and well, fly Eagles fly.
Yeah, we'll discuss also my lead in the Drew Locks and
we don't need to get into
come back in golf a little bit later on in this episode as well.
We don't need to get into the Drew Locks again.
First game up on our slate, Chiefs 27, Jags 20. So Jags, awesome season. Got to give them credit. Came to a little bit of an end this last week, but
hey, I beat you this week in the Drew Locks. Sorry. This past week. Never mind.
Nope.
Math is hard.
You did not.
Math is hard.
Yes, it is. Especially when it's already calculated.
Yes, it is. I was looking at the previous week and thought there was some additions and
attaboy.
It's been a week already. Yes, it's only Tuesday. Live on a Tuesday. Find us on YouTube. All right. Not a whole lot to talk about from this one, other than you saw Patrick Mahomes go down with that high ankle sprain in the first half, and give him credit. They must have shot him up with some good stuff at halftime for him to be able to come out. Usually that's an injury you see multiple weeks that someone's out for, ends up coming back in the second half, and Chiefs hold on to victory. But yeah, anything else really you saw from this one? I mean, it was the result that I thought, but not how we would get to it. I was very worried when Chad Henne came in. Hey, 98-yard drive from Chad Henne. 15-year career from this guy. That's
just going to
awesome.
Say shocking he's still in the league. But hey, when you're backing up Patrick Mahomes, you don't have to do much. That's for sure.
It's the, we talk about Chase Daniel and him being that long time, just reliable backup. Hell, Henne's been doing it for even longer. So props to Chad Henne, but yeah, 98-yard drive. Gotta give it up to him. That's pretty nice, but I don't think there was any chance Mahomes was coming out of this game. I mean, you saw him just limping around out there, but he was still, I mean, he missed a few throws that he would normally make. But I don't think there was any chance he was really coming out. What I'm more intrigued by, though, is from what you hear. Now, I've never had a high ankle sprain. Unless you maybe did in high school playing soccer. I don't know many people that have had that injury. So this is coming straight from, ESPN, whatever sports analysts out there that have played in the past. They say that it gets worse over time. Now, because during that game, you've got all that adrenaline going. Your tendons are all loose, assuming you stretched and everything before the game. So your tendons are loose, your muscles are loose. You've got mad blood flow, like going through that area throughout your entire body, really, because of that adrenaline and everything. But when it really starts to suck is the next day and even further on, as you're not able to work it as much. So we did see him be able to tough it out through during this game, but I don't know how much he's going to be able to practice this week at all, because like you said, this is oftentimes one of those injuries where players are out multiple weeks. So I'm a little bit worried about that. It's not like Patrick Mahomes needs to be out there practicing, throwing, and he's obviously got impeccable timing with the Kelseys and the Juju Smith-Schusters, MVSs of the world. It's not like he needs to be out there for that purpose necessarily, because he is just that naturally talented, but you still don't want to go into this game completely cold, without having played for over the last 6 days and just try to go out there and warm up like it's any other game. So all week long, I'm sure he'll be doing, stability rehab stuff and trying to keep it loose while also keeping it, stable, and strengthening rehab types of exercises. But I'm just more curious about how it's going to show itself next week, because the one particular play that jumps out at me was when they tried to run a stretch play, an off tackle stretch, and he couldn't even get to McKinnon to hand the ball off.
Yeah.
And he was just he was basically hobbling his way over there. So the Chiefs, they might have to completely eliminate that kind of stuff from their playbook. And that could be a pretty big factor when you're talking about, eliminating these outside runs. Sure, he can still pitch the ball, but that doesn't necessarily have the same effect, especially with the offensive line and the way that the offensive line can scheme and block and time things properly on a pitch versus one of these outside off tackle handoffs. So I think that's going to, that's going to be a big factor. And then just what makes Mahomes so spectacular is what he's able to do off script. He's still going to be able to drop back and find open receivers and hit Travis Kelce for, his 15 receptions and 125 yards and whatever. Maybe the best tight end of all time. I never thought anybody would be better than Gronk, and I still think Gronk is probably the better overall tight end just because of his impact in the blocking game. But Kelce, we can start looking at making the argument that Kelce's the best receiving tight end of all time. It's nuts what he's doing. So I think, that's obviously a concern going into next week, but I guess just reflecting on this week, God damn, the Jags, hell of a season. You got to give it to them. Now you've got an answer at head coach. You've got an answer at quarterback. You've still got a nice pass rush, even with Trayvon Walker being, as I mentioned in last week's recordings, pretty much non-existent again. Still, Josh Allen, not the quarterback, is making an awesome impact on the defense. They've got some really nice pieces. I think that they could use probably, Etienne. Hard to see him being a 3-down back, especially when you get in, running up the trenches. That's not really his strength. So if you can get a back, that's where James Robinson was pretty valuable for them. If they can get another back like that late in the draft, that can be a between the tackles guy, a near, a Mike Tolbert, Michael Turner, total vulture, which, hey, I've got him in Dynasty, so I've got ETN in Dynasty, so I'm not rooting for that necessarily, but
I'm glad it's ETN and not Mike Tolbert in Dynasty, Joe.
That's be like our buddy B-Dub hanging on to Brett Favre. So I'm not necessarily rooting for that for my fantasy purposes, but for just football strategy wise, I think that's got to be a target for them. And let's not forget the Jags have Calvin Ridley joining the squad next year. Yeah, under the radar move. They sent away, what was it, a second rounder for Calvin, who can
think so
he can be a legit number one wideout. So that moves Christian Kirk back over to a more natural spot for him as a second wide receiver, puts Zay Jones as a third receiver, or you can kind of, mix and match with those two guys and have Calvin as your one with T-Law, with ETN, Doug Peterson commanding the ship. I think the Jags have to be mad, pumped about how this year went and knowing that they found a lot of answers to the many, many questions that we all had. Let's not forget they had the number one pick for the last 2 seasons, and they get a playoff win once they have an actual head coach. So bravo to the Jags. Golf clap.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought up those 2 first-round picks, because that's what I wanted to bring up, that it's just amazing that the last 2 years, like you said, we're drafting first overall, drafted Trevor Lawrence 2 years ago, and then Trayvon Walker this last year, and get to the divisional round of the playoffs, not even just the wild card round with the extended 7 teams, but win a game, get to go play on the road to a hard environment going to Arrowhead, but
and they were competitive too. It's not like they got their shoes blown off their feet. Like
the next team we'll talk about in a little bit.
What's that?
Like the next team we're going to talk about.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yes. But no, you have to love the direction that this team is headed. Trevor Lawrence is going to have another year working with Doug Peterson, another offseason. So like you mentioned, Calvin Ridley coming in and solidifying that wide receiver room. Christian Kirk can move back to a more natural spot in a 2 role instead of that 1 role. It's going to be awesome. Evan Ingram's a free agent. We'll see what they do with him. Kind of rejuvenated his career a little bit there this year. So we'll see if maybe 100%. They try and bring him back under fold and everything. But yeah, I guess my thing I had written down, kind of wanted to go through some of the playoff teams and their losses and what's next for them. And with the Jaguars, I think it's just kind of beefing up the O-line, beefing up the D-line and different things. But I mean, they're the team I think to beat in that AFC South for the foreseeable future. All 3 other teams right now are in some sort of turmoil, whether it's Houston doesn't have a coach, not sure on their long-term quarterback. Indianapolis is a shit show right now, trying to figure out what aged veteran they're going to bring in as a quarterback this year instead of just jump starting it and bringing in a new quarterback.
Go trade again for Wentz.
Right. Let's bring him back. He was better than Matt Ryan.
Wasn't that bad.
And then Tennessee. I mean, what are they going to do there? They drafted Malik Willis last year, but he didn't really show a ton when he got into some of the game action this year. And Ryan Tannehill's not long-term there. Derrick Henry's aging, so that's kind of a team heading in the wrong direction as well. So you got to, if you're a Jags fan, think that, hey, this is our division for the foreseeable future until one of these teams figures their shit out, because that's where Jacksonville was the last few years, and they finally figured their stuff out and are looking to be able to compete, and not only compete for the division, but look to make deep runs in the playoffs.
Head coach QB combo, Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence, both awesome. Tennessee, I'm a Vrabel fan.
Yeah.
No quarterback. Texans, neither a head coach or a quarterback at the moment. Indianapolis, arguably even uglier because they have less draft capital than the Texans, with no head coach, no quarterback. Both the Texans and the Colts have goofy owners. Tennessee, I guess, because they've got Derrick Henry, but the limitations of a Ryan Tannehill-led team. We've seen it every year, especially once you get into the postseason. So, I mean, last year when the Titans were the number 1 seed, they lost in their first game. They got the bye and they lost. And but was anybody really shocked? It's kind of what you get when you've got Ryan Tannehill as, leading your team. So I think the Jags, their future is bright, man. For the first time in God knows how long, we can actually say that with confidence. I mean, that season that they made the AFC Championship game with Blake Bortles and were only a few minutes away from making it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Did anybody really say, oh, the future's bright with this team? It's no, the future's still Blake Bortles. So, but no, you've got a prodigy and you've got a Super Bowl winning head coach. So and Calvin Ridley, adding to this. I really hope Trayvon Walker can get it together, because Aiden Hutchinson, who was kind of, at least at the beginning of the draft process, looked at as the consensus number 1 overall pick, we saw him make a pretty nice impact for the Lions, especially in the second half of the season. So, or maybe 6 games into the season and beyond. I hope that the Jags don't regret that pick, because if you add Aiden Hutchinson to that defense, it gets even nastier. That team gets even nastier and even more loaded. Or shit. I mean, I know nobody was thinking Sauce Gardner at the number 1 overall pick, but he's going to be Revis Island for the next 8 years, type of a corner. So I think they may have screwed that one up, but the rest of that team and the 2 most important things, head coach, quarterback, solidified.
Yep.
Let's move on to Giants Eagles here, where, hey, the Giants do have one of those head coach quarterback, or half of that head coach quarterback combination solidified. Brian Daboll, he's the real deal. What do you think about Daniel Jones, though, man? I mean, they got slaughtered in this game 38-7 by a much more talented Philly team, but they just did not do jack squat on offense. I know Philly's talented, but the Giants, you gotta expect more out of your team and out of your quarterback, especially.
Yeah, I think you said it, or during one of our text exchange over the weekend, that I think the Giants really exposed how bad that Minnesota Vikings defense was, because man, they could do whatever they wanted against that Vikings defense, and nothing was working against the Eagles team. That Eagles were fired up, ready to play them. So we weren't really sure how the Eagles were going to come out, especially with having the 1 seed. They had the week off, which I think did wonders for them. I think they were rested up. Jalen Hurts looked fairly good. Didn't throw for a ton of yards, but didn't need to. I mean, they were just dominating with that run game. Kenny Gainwell leading rusher in this one, and Miles Sanders had a really nice game too. So, but man, the Giants, they've got some questions to try and figure out here in the interim and figure out what they want to do. Do you tag Daniel Jones? We talked about this a little bit last week, but I mean, with them just getting shellacked, there's a clear difference between these 2 teams and why one is moving on, the other one isn't. And the Eagles were the better team, the better offense. And I don't know what you do if you're the Giants, because nothing really is out there right now currently in the NFL that wouldn't be more than just a Band-Aid, I think, trying to figure it out. I don't necessarily think they're a quarterback away from getting to the Super Bowl. There's a lot more pieces that they need. So I don't know if you add a Derek Carr, Jimmy G, if that's really going to put you over the hump at all, because they really don't have a ton of pieces to throw to. And I don't know. Daboll, I don't think, signed up for a rebuild project, but maybe he takes this time and they try and figure out, all right, who's somebody that we can develop as a quarterback, build around right now, whether that is in the draft or maybe it is. Maybe you just tag Daniel Jones for 1 more year, you bring him back, and hey, if he doesn't do well or whatever, then we've got the draft to look for next year and we're done. We don't have to give him a long-term contract, and we can just kind of see what's out there. Maybe somebody else, maybe Kyler Murray burns bridges in Arizona and wants out and they're looking to trade. I don't know, something along those lines.
The GM that came in, we talked about this last week. The GM that came in Arizona said, we're not dealing with anybody with an ego in this organization. So I think that organization, that ownership is already fed up with him, and executive management, they're already fed up with Kyler. So that's not too far fetched.
Yeah. But I think that's probably what you have to do here. I don't know that you can commit money to a Derek Carr, Jimmy G. I don't think that really gets you anywhere, and you're better off just having a 1-year deal with a Daniel Jones and kind of seeing how that goes and reevaluating next year. But just with their draft capital, they're not going to be able to get anybody in the first round as far as incoming quarterbacks. So I don't know. I think they're just there's a lot of teams that are just kind of in that quarterback purgatory right now that there's not a ton that they can do with it. And it sucks for your fan base.
I think that, okay, look at your 4 quarterbacks that did advance, and spoiler alert, Eagles with Jalen Hurts, rookie contract, Trevor Lawrence, rookie contract. Bengals with Joe Burrow, rookie contract. And then Patrick Mahomes, who is obviously, he's the highest paid quarterback in the league, but he's already in the Hall of Fame right now if he were to retire because of this high ankle sprain. So my point is, what's the point of franchise tagging him? Honestly, look at your teams that are franchise tagging quarterbacks. All you're doing is putting yourself in no man's land going into the following offseason. I don't think that it's worth that squad going after a Derek Carr, a Jimmy G, and putting $35 to $40 million on guys like that are fringe top 10, top 15 guys. I mean, Daniel Jones is maybe a 16 to 18. Sometimes looks like he's a number 26 quarterback in the league.
Right.
Like he did this past weekend. And sometimes he looks better, but why not give up the farm, move up to 5, make a trade with Seattle, go after a CJ Stroud type if Stroud is there at 5 or something, and give up a ton of picks. And then at that point, you get rid of Daniel Jones. You've got hella money because that first year, those first 3 years, really your first round players, high draft picks don't start making big money until about year 4. So you've got 3 years then to play around with that squad, develop that team, and spend a ton on free agency. I mean, I get that they tried spending a ton of money in free agency on a wide receiver in Kenny Golladay. That was a waste of time, but big time wah. So I think you can do it again. And there's not it's not like the receiver market is all that great going, free agency wise, but you're always going to have diva wide receivers that are going to want out. Maybe you go after one of these, you move off Daniel Jones, you give up the farm to move up high in the draft and get yourself a quarterback of the future. Work this guy on the rookie deal, hang on to Saquon. You've got a pretty nice offensive line now. I mean, Andrew Thomas looked like he was going to be a bust going into this season, and he ended up being a Pro Bowler, I believe, on the All-Pro first or second team and you've got Evan Neal on the other side. So that offensive line is shaping up nicely pretty quickly. Brian Daboll's awesome. Maybe you follow the Bengals model and you go get yourself a high-end wide receiver and you move up and go get yourself a rookie quarterback. And then you surround that rookie quarterback with a stud team. I know that sounds easier than it actually is because you're going to have to give up a lot to be able to move up that high in the draft. Mm-hmm. But if you just franchise tag Daniel Jones again, just to finish third in the division and be a fringe wild card playoff team again, you're just in the same position going into next year with Saquon 1 year older, with still not much in terms of a receiving core. I don't see the point of pushing it off another year. I really think you want to make the move, especially when you've got a guy like Daboll. He doesn't want to sit around and do nothing. He's too good of a coach.
Yeah, I don't. Either that or you just bring in like a Jameis Winston or something on a 1 year deal, short, not a lot of money given up to him, and then try and get into that top 5 next year. We got quite the crop of quarterbacks coming out, and
but what's the point of doing this again? Then you're just saying throw away a year when you've got a squad that just made the playoffs. That team going into next year is going to know what's up. If you bring in Jameis to replace Daniel Jones, they're like, oh my God, they just want us to tank again this year. That's not going to fly. That's not going to fly with Daboll. That's not going to fly in that locker room. Yeah. I think maybe I certainly am out on Jimmy G. The guy can't stay on the field. Yeah. Derek Carr, I'm a little more in on. I think he's a better fit probably with like the Jets, but I don't know. I think if you're the Giants, I personally, and I know it's not easy, so I just keep saying this, and it sounds obviously a lot easier than it is, but why not try to bump yourself into that top 4, top 5 and grab yourself a Stroud? I'd be less in on Levis just because I think he's less ready than Stroud. You're certain. I mean, I don't know how you'd be able to get up to number 1. That would be an insane haul, but maybe you are willing to do that for a Bryce Young. So I just think that's the route that they should go, given that if you want to hang on a Saquon, you're going to have to commit 12, 14, 15 million a year to him. If you want to go buy a wide receiver, which they should do at this point, because they clearly need help at tight end, receiver. I mean, I think the only way to afford that is going and getting yourself a rookie quarterback and starting over that clock at quarterback where you've got 3 seasons of a cheap QB.
What do you think it would take for them to, if the 49ers loved Brock Purdy, what about Trey Lance? Trey Lance is someone that you'd think would be Brian Daboll's kind of ideal quarterback. Somebody that was raw, that was Josh Allen, that he helped develop. That might be, I don't know. I don't think San Francisco is going to move off of him. I mean, we'll be talking about them, I'm sure, at some point once they're out of the playoffs. But I don't know. Maybe San Francisco, if somebody comes in and wants him, this is your opportunity to.
Well, I think Brock Purdy's going in as the starter next year. I think he's going into the year as the number 1 quarterback. Now, if in the offseason Trey Lance puts on a freaking show, then maybe Brock ends up on the bench, but I see that I don't see that really happening. Trey Lance that's a good call. I mean, athletic quarterback, running quarterback, big arm, much bigger of an arm than Daniel Jones, probably just as inaccurate as Daniel Jones. So yeah, you got that going for, but look at Josh Allen in Buffalo. Mm-hmm. His first 2 years, especially his rookie year, Daniel Jones couldn't hit the broadside of a barn to steal that cliche. So that's a good call. I like that a lot. The only thing there is you've only got that's basically a prove it year then for Trey Lance.
Yeah.
Because if he doesn't prove that he's the guy in that season, they have to make a call the following offseason if they're going to pick up his 5th year option. So there is no time for him to really develop. So you'd have to really get it done probably early in the offseason and to give himself a full offseason with Daboll and his staff. But I like that shout. Good shout. Good shout.
Moving over, speaking of Josh Allen, his team.
I gotta go fire up I gotta go stoke the fire pit really quick.
Sounds good. I'll introduce the next one. Got the Bengals beating the Bills 27-10. DeMar Hamlin was in attendance for this one. Nice snowy day in Buffalo, New York for this one. And Bengals got the rematch that they want against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game and just kind of demolished the Bills. The Bills just did not look good at all from the start of this. And Joe Mixon had a nice day. Joe Burrow had a nice day. I mean, Bengals offense was clicking in this one. Defense was putting pressure on Josh Allen. And I think they just exposed how much Buffalo is one-dimensional. And that's one of the things I have written down for what's next for the Bills. And that is establishing a run game that is not just Josh Allen and relying on Josh Allen to run the ball. You need to be able to run the ball, especially you're in one of the snowiest places in all of the NFL. You cannot rely on a huge passing game with an outdoor stadium. You have to build a run game that can get you through the playoffs, especially if you're going to be home. Otherwise, just sneak into the playoffs, lose a couple games at the end of the season, get a wild card spot so you don't have to play in Buffalo. This is going to be the same recipe, I think, year after year if they don't get a run game going.
And this is why I already have Sean McDermott on the hot seat going into next season. I mean, he's been there since before Josh Allen got there, and he has still yet to be able to develop a running game. Like you said, you're in Buffalo. You saw the field conditions this past weekend, and you still decided, and maybe this isn't a Sean McDermott thing, maybe this is a Ken Dorsey thing, but McDermott, you hired Ken Dorsey, so you have to take the burden of this. You have to take on this. This is your responsibility as well. Instead of running the ball and trying to get first downs, it was just home run shot, home run shot, home run shot. How many of those home run shots did they convert? Very few. 3rd and 2, deep ball to Gabe Davis. Not even, this shit doesn't, just, they kept trying it. Where was Stephon Diggs that game?
Why is Gabe Davis the last few weeks?
including the end of the regular season? Yeah. It's like, why is Gabe Davis getting significantly more targets than Stephon Diggs? I don't know if it's a scheme thing, if it's these corners are so focused on Diggs and Gabe is the one that's more wide open, but good Christ, Stephon Diggs is one of the best wide receivers in the league. You got to give him a chance, man. And I get that Gabe Davis is, he's improved every single year. He's a nice deep threat, but that's kind of it. I mean, Stephon Diggs is a do-it-all wide receiver, middle of the field, deep ball, running, him in screens and stuff. Dude, 3rd and 2, run a wide receiver screen with Stephon Diggs. That has a better shot of getting you a first down and being able to develop a drive, create drives, than just constantly throwing these Hail Marys. And the other thing that's a little bit, doesn't always get talked about is the fact that when you just have constant first drive, their first offensive drive, 3 and out, all you're doing is putting more pressure on that defense, and they're on the field for that much longer. Cincinnati was able to run the ball. You saw them establish Joe Mixon all game long. And the defense, that's how you keep a defense fresh, by establishing the run and by creating long-standing drives, not 3 and out. And hey, even if the other thing too, you hit one of these, you just keep hitting, let's say you just hit one of these home run balls. Okay, now your defense has to go back out and try to stop Cincy from going 75, 80 yards again. I've only been on the sideline for 6 minutes. I'm just getting my legs back under me. If I'm one of those defensive players, even though we did score a touchdown, like, damn it, I have to go back out there already. So that's another thing that isn't being considered in this play calling. And I think it's gotta be a massive concern.
Yeah.
I think am I out of bounds by saying McDermott's on the hot seat? You've got one of the top 3-4 quarterbacks in the league. And what have they done? What have they accomplished? Yeah. They were the Super Bowl favorites going into this season, and they didn't even make the conference title game. I get that he's done a nice job to develop this team and get them this far from the trash heap that they were, but I feel like they've already peaked. I feel like last season, as long as McDermott is there, last season was their peak, which was being 14 seconds away from the Super Bowl, but not being able to make any stops.
Yeah. You wonder, too, how much some of the injuries that Josh Allen took on throughout this year affected him. You never really hear on the full extent of those till a lot later on. So we'll see if anything comes up from there. I mean, he had that arm injury, halfway through the season, maybe a little over halfway, and didn't really seem the same after that. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but I agree completely with that. I don't know that Sean McDermott's necessarily on the hot seat, but I think he should be. They have underachieved to this point. Yes, they're winning divisions. Yes, they made it into the playoffs and won a couple games the last few years, but you have one of the best quarterbacks in the league and nothing to show for it for right now. So I agree completely with that. I guess too, if we're looking at talking about them maybe establishing the run. Do you see that running back on the current team right now, or do they try and hit that in free agency, or where they're sitting in the draft right now is a prime spot for maybe a Bijan Robinson or something like that, running back out of Texas? I mean, I don't know if he necessarily fits. I don't know if they're going to want to cater that offense to get a guy that comes in and a running back like that, but I think they need to. I think that would do wonders. And I don't know.
The way that I think that is a delicious idea of going and getting Bijan.
Not to be confused with Dijon mustard.
One of the best mustards out there. Top two mustard out there with a spicy brown. Depends on, kind of how what kind of meal you're working with there. Anyways, not Bijan Robinson I love the idea. Like I said, delicious idea, but I have no reason to believe that this management staff, this coaching staff is going to put any sort of emphasis on getting a running back, on taking one that high. There is no proof that they will do that. They would have to completely flip on what they've been doing. And I think they should. I think it's a great idea. I just don't see it happening. So it wouldn't shock me one bit. I mean, they just took James Cook in the second last year. I think he sticks around. He proved to kind of take over. He got more playing time as the season went on over Singletary.
Singletary is a free agent this offseason too.
Yeah, so I see him gone. I see Singletary gone. He can be picked up by any number of squads as a complimentary back. He's still a nice back, but he's clearly not just a, number 1 3-down back. He's a nice, 1 to 2 down back per series kind of thing. But so good complimentary back. I just think they need another complimentary back, almost like let me throw this. Let me do a little throwback about 18 years back and go Lendale White.
Oh,
bringing that type of a back. I mean, seriously, that type of a back would be awesome in Buffalo and a great compliment to James Cook, who, pretty nice all around back, but certainly not a 3-down. I don't think at this point. I don't think Buffalo views him as that, but kind of almost similar to what I said about the Jags. Go get yourself a complimentary 3-down back or a compliment to your current, 2-down back. And maybe you keep Nyheim Hines around for your passing game work, and then you get yourself a bruiser for the 3rd and 2nd or 3rd and 2 yards. Instead of having to throw the ball 80 yards downfield on a 3rd and 2, you can just give it to your Lendale White type.
Yeah. Team that has figured out their running game, the 49ers, that's always their bread and butter, took on the Cowboys, and Cowboys were who we thought they were. Finally got knocked out of the playoffs. Kind of
and the Niners did not let him off the hook.
Closest game of the weekend as far as Chiefs Jags was too, but this one felt a lot closer. 49ers ended up winning 19-12. Thanks to another Brett Maher missed extra point that got blocked to start off the game.
Oh, that
was just,
even if that didn't get blocked, that would have gone 40 feet left. Like he hooked the shit out of that.
Oh yeah.
I think it was blocked by the right end. It wasn't even
so bad, but Cowboys just ugly in this one. Defense played pretty well to limit the 49ers to 19 points, but Dak, 2 costly interceptions that just kind of turned the game on its head. And like I said, 49ers did enough to win in this one. George Kittle with the catch of the year. I mean, just unbelievable catch up the seam that kind of jump-started that 49ers offense. And that, I don't know, how he managed to stay focused enough to catch it. And he missed the huge hit that safety was going to lay on him too.
Oh, that's what I was waiting for too. And then he just ended up being able to barely snag it right before that
hit. Hold the ball in and just kind of shimmy to the side and miss the hit. Just unbelievable catch. I was so glad that they kept showing that replay because it was well deserved. And every time it did, he just unfolded a different piece of it that I'm like, wow, add that onto it. Just insane. But
my favorite part of that catch was in the post game when he was asked about it, and he said that he juggled it around and did all that for ratings.
Yeah, George Kittle is
class, just
different
WWE
breed.
character in an NFL uniform.
For sure. Yeah, he definitely have a career there after his NFL one's done. That's for sure.
But something up with those tight ends. Like, I mean, Gronk, Travis Kelce had his own reality dating TV show. Like, something's up with these star tight ends.
Right. I guess, Joe, what do you see is next with the Cowboys? I mean, it seems like it's the same old story every single year the last few years. They sneak into the playoffs, or they have a good stretch during the regular season, kind of stumble into the playoffs. And then again, kind of how you were talking with the Bills. Like, I feel like with Mike McCarthy, with Dak Prescott, we've seen their peak. This is who they are. This is what they are. Do you see anything that they can do to tweak this roster as it currently stands, or head coach, to get them over the hump and get them back into the NFC Championship game, maybe Super Bowl run? I mean, they've had a solid running back in Zeke. That's a situation they're going to have to figure out. Tony Pollard went down with a broken leg, and his contract's up. And Zeke, it sounded like Zeke said he would take a pay cut to come back to the Cowboys. So it sounds like he kind of knows, like, hey, I'm at the end of my career right now. I'm not the same player that I was. But
writing's on the wall.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you've got CeeDee Lamb, who had an unbelievable year this year with Amari Cooper gone. Dalton Schultz is a solid tight end. It seems like they have pieces on offense. It's just they can't seem to ever get in sync and get on the same page and have any consistency. You never know what is going to happen week to week with them.
What is the difference between Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott versus those Marvin Lewis, Andy Dalton teams?
Nothing.
I mean, get you to the playoffs and do nothing with it. And look at those Bengals teams. You had loaded squads. Good number one receiver in AJ Green, a nice number two, and was Hoosh there for some? That might be Hoosh. Might have been that, like, before Dalton.
TJ, who's your mama?
But still, you had that number one receiver in AJ Green. You've got it in CeeDee Lamb. They always had some nice receiving tight ends. Most of them couldn't stay on the field. Forget that Notre Dame tight end that
Kraft.
No. It's like I'm thinking of like Jeremiah or Jermaine Gresham. Was he a Bengal?
There, I think. Yeah.
Maybe there's that guy, and then there's the white tight end that was
like Tyler Kraft or something.
It was Tyler something. I'll hit up Google in a sec here. But I mean, seriously, this seems like the same deal. Late in the second half there, the Cowboys punted on 4th and 5 in Niners territory. Like, this is just the McCarthy MO. He clearly can't trust Dak.
The only thing I will just throw in there quick, and I'll turn it back over to you, Jell. You could totally tell that there was absolutely no confidence in their kicker.
There was
a couple Tyler Eifert, that's what it was. There was no confidence in Brett Maher at all, because there were spots in that first half even.
No, but
they would have normally lined up.
Then go for it on a 4th and 5 in Niner territory. You have to score points to be able to make a playoff run. I'm not saying put any confidence in Maher. Do you even think Maher wanted the Cowboys to go and tie or be 1 point shy of winning?
No chance.
And it would have come down to him at the end on that final drive.
I think everyone in America was rooting for the Cowboys to score a touchdown. I think if they did, they would have went for 2. I think they would have went for 2 to try and win the game right there.
Did you see how their season ended too? That last play,
Zeke just getting bodied as the only guy
was blocking. A bowling ball versus a bowling pin, like just rolled over. That was so great, just suplexed. It literally looked like he just got tipped over. That was, and then I think that Dak or whoever drew up that play call must have thought that they were expecting to have more time. Maybe thought that Zeke was going to be able to get up from under center and attack a 300-pound lineman. and be able to hold his own there. Like 2 seasons in a row, their last plays. Yeah. Embarrassing. The last season when they tried a QB draw with 14 seconds left and ran out of time because according to McCarthy, the way how it worked out in practice, they had about 13. It was a 12 to 13 second play. Dude, this isn't practice. Like, what are you talking about? You've got live refs. You've got guys that are going to be laying on Dak, trying to prevent him from getting up. Like, what are they talking about? What was he talking about then? And now to run this to end your season, it's like, I get it. Like, I get that it's a low percentage play regardless. I mean, you know, to try to score from the 25 or whatever, and Dalton Schultz pooping himself twice.
Yeah, that was bad.
On 2 plays in a row, what should have, didn't get out of bounds on the first one. The second one, did he think that he had both feet down or something? Like, it looks so nonchalant the way he just stepped out of bounds.
I think he thought that when he initially caught the ball that his 1 foot was in the process and his toe was still down, but you could clearly see in the replay. I mean, it was not. It was close, but you can't. You got to assume you didn't.
I sat there right away when I was looking at that play. I was like, there's no way that, like, right away when I saw it, I was like, I don't think he got both feet, but there's no way that he didn't. Like, how could he possibly just like be that oblivious to getting both feet down? But it was, like you said, clear and obvious that he didn't.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Another interesting offseason. Sounds like Jerry's not making any coaching changes, which
Shocker.
I think we both know that he probably needs to. But looks like same old for the Cowboys, and they'll run it back and see if they can tweak things around to advance a little farther. But I don't know.
Not counting on it.
No. You ready for some golf, Joe? American Express, I want to talk about Rama Ding Dong. John Rahm with the 1-shot victory over Davis Thompson, and quite an awesome finish to that tournament. It was going on at the same time as that Bills-Bengals game, so I was flipping back and forth, and then finally the game I saw the writing on the wall that it was going to be the Bengals, so I flipped over to golf, caught the final round there, and just an awesome last stretch. I mean, Davis Thompson, hole 17. What a cool hole, by the way. I mean, that's one of my favorite ones at that stadium course. Got the island green just surrounded by the rocks. So you see it just balls just ricocheting off of those
all over the place. It's like pinball.
All over. Yeah. But Davis Thompson hits a heck of a shot backside of the green, has like a 30-foot putt for the tie. Rahm's about 20 feet away or so. And Davis hits just this beautiful putt that is rolling just dead center cup. Only problem was the pin was in. And I mean, that's how he usually putts. So you can't fault him at all there. But I mean, that pin wasn't in. That's one that maybe hits the back of the hole, drops in. I mean, that was just dead center of the cup, but ends up hitting the pin. It pops out, tap in par, Rahm pars, and then that's pretty much it. But that would have essentially tied it up right there. And they would have went to 18, tied for the lead. Rahm didn't have the best final round at all, but he did enough to win. And that's what experienced guys do. They know that, hey, I don't have to go out there and put up a big number. I just need to play my game, limit my mistakes. And that's what he ended up doing and ended up winning the tournament. Back-to-back starts of his, he's won 4 out of his last 6. I mean, this is a stretch like Scotty's last year to start off the season too, where Scotty just seemed like he was invincible and winning everything in sight. And John Rahm's off to a hot start this year.
And I think you said it exactly right. That's the difference between John Rahm, a grizzly vet, versus with a nice dad bod, versus a rookie Davis Thompson who, I mean, he looks like a little boy out there in comparison to some of those other guys.
So I mean, he's got a promising career ahead of him. I think he was a Georgia standout, but it's
but that's a difference. And I mean, the other thing too that I want to point out on 18, Thompson hits that ball deep of the green into that, on the backside of this pretty steep hill. And they were saying on the broadcast, it sounded like the caddies, or the caddy was kind of saying, like, you think you might have a better chance to putt this.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, screw that. I'm going for the flop shot. And he put up a really nice ball. I mean, it was a great effort.
Yep.
And it just trickled past the hole. I mean, if he would have hit that, that would have been, if he would have hit that, birdied that hole and ended up going in and winning the tournament in the playoff, that would have been the shot of the tournament by a mile. So, I mean, give all the credit in the world to a rookie who ends up finishing in second place, one shot back of Jon Rahm, right now playing the best golf of his career. So we've been saying it since we started this pod. Rahm just has figured out a way. Like he's so damn good sometimes, but he always figures out a way to blow it, and it could be just one hole, like where he has the ability to make these spectacular shots, but not some of these easier, just more standard, like, hey, I'm 120 out, I'm just going to put it within, 10 feet of the pin, which most professional golfers can do. Sometimes he ends up shanking it or going way deep, and then he gets really frustrated, and you can see it in his face, or he just gets really frustrated really fast if he has a bad shot, and then it just trickles into a little bit of a downward spiral. But but now this season so far, he hasn't run into that issue. So if he can maintain his composure, this is the best golf he's played of his career, and we might be finally looking at the Jon Rahm that we all knew that he could be, for if he can keep this going for an entire season.
Yep. Golf Pick'em, Gel. I don't know if you necessarily want to talk about it, but
let's go. Get it over with.
Had a nice week. Went with rookie Taylor Montgomery, who has not missed a cut since he's gotten up to the PGA Tour. Finished at -24. Sahith Theegala, nice run to start it off, and then just kind of cooled down over the weekend. Just couldn't really get much going, and finished at 13 under. But you had a pretty commanding lead there, Joe, going into this one. It is down to 8 shots. So you have a 50-42 lead on me. So we'll see if I can climb
I
back
got
into
no
it
worries. I ain't got no worries. Let's go.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum. Hashtag not a sponsor, but that is where we are headed this week, to just north of San Diego, to Farmers Insurance Open at.
It's just a tick at this point.
Yes. Heading to Torrey Pines, iconic site for golf. Love some of the views of this one. This is right up there with Pebble, some of the holes, and just the awesome landscapes there. Fun tournament to watch. Played on 2 courses. They've got the South Course and the North Course. South Course is played 3 times over the week. And the North Course just once. So the first 2 rounds you alternate. One day is on the South, the other's on the North. And then the rest of the week, it is on that South Course, which is quite a bit harder. 7,765 yards at South Course is par 72, and 7,200 for the North Course. So not terribly shorter, but 7,700. That's one of the longer. Longer ones on the regular.
That's a lot of walking, man. That's a lot of walking.
Yes. Those that will be walking the course this week: Sahith Theegala, Luke List, our defending champion from last year, Jason Day, Max Homa, Will Zalatoris, who lost in that playoff to Luke List last year, Colin Morikawa, Xander Schauffele, JJ Spawn, Hideki Matsuyama, Ricky Fowler, who had a nice week last week, Justin Rose, Taylor Montgomery, Sungjae Im, Jon Rahm, Tony Finau, and Justin Thomas. So got really fun grouping. This is one that quite a few guys play in this week. And what are obviously read off some of the favorites for this one, Gel? What are some of the favorites for betting?
Yeah, I mean, the runaway favorite right now is Jon Rahm at plus 425. You don't ever really see that steep of odds in golf for a favorite at plus 425. A lot of times that favorite's going to be closer to like even plus 750 is giving quite a bit of love. So plus 425, I don't know that I never like making those bets just because there's so much golf to be played like, bet $25 to end up winning whatever the math is, 108 or whatever. Doesn't seem like enough of a payoff for me. But and then you bounce down just to the number 2 favorite, Xander Schauffele, at plus 1,000. So you could make a $25 bet, and if he takes the W, $250. So there's a massive difference there. That's more of the play that I would like to make. Right behind him, Justin Thomas at plus 1,200, Tony Finau 1,200, Zalatoris at plus 1,200. So really, your top 3 consists of 5 guys. You mentioned last year, Will Zalatoris was there up until the end. Almost got his first career PGA Tour win. Wasn't quite able to close it out, but really a pretty. And then Collin Morikawa falls right behind Zalatoris, so it's a pretty nice loaded, top of the leaderboard in terms of odds.
Yep. Such a fun finishing hole, that 18th on the South Course, one that green slopes toward that pond in the front, and such a risk reward hole on this course. And you see so many times guys will hit the middle of the green, put some solid backspin on it. The ball rolls right off the green into the pond. So it's fun. It reminds me of the tin cup hole that got to hit that center of the green, that shelf to keep it up there. Otherwise,
or else you're screwed
right off the front. Yep.
All right. Torrey Pines. Good. That'd be a good name, by the way. If your last name is Pines and you have a daughter, Torrey Pines.
Torrey Pines. Like it. All right, Joe, let's get into our picks. As I mentioned, you do have an 8-shot lead here. You got first pick last week, so I have first pick this week, and looking to climb back into this. And
I think we go based off of whoever's not in the lead anyways. So go ahead, buddy. Still your turn.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with somebody here. Like I said, my goal right now is to make cuts, and this guy has been on a decent roll. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are familiar with this guy, and I'm going to lock in Mr. Rama Ding Dong. He is just playing some amazing golf right now. Like I said, he's won 4 out of his last 6 starts, has had huge success at Torrey Pines over his career, got the U.S. Open victory there back in 2021. And he said he's just feels special with this course. There's something about it. And I'm rocking with him this week. I mean, this hot streak, it has to end at some point, but I don't know that it's going to be this week. Don't know that I'm necessarily expecting him to win, but he should be right up there in the top 5 at the end of the day. And I need strokes. So I'm going to roll with the big name here, Mr. Ramalama Ding Dong.
No fault there. He's obviously the heavy favorite for a reason. I'm going to go with Senor Jason Day.
Okay.
Tied for 3rd last year at this event. Won it in 2015, won it in 2018. Obviously, so therefore very familiar with the course, with the events, and again, I mean, long shot to get the overall tournament W, but like you said, we're playing the long game here, trying to get strokes and not necessarily go for the number 1 winner each week. Not going to be possible by year's end. So Jason Day, familiar with the course, still only in his mid-30s, so I think he can handle the 7,700-yard course over 4 days. And yeah, I just like his past success here, especially last year with, finishing tied for 3rd in the events. So only 1 stroke off of the lead, tied at minus 14. Your winners were at minus 15. So give me J-Day.
Yep. No, love the pick. And that's one thing. You got to go with somebody that knows the course and has success there. And both of our guys fall right into that. Oh, got to yell that so much today. That was a good time.
Gonna end up hoarse.
Yes. We can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. Go to YouTube, type in Dead Arm Sports, subscribe, click the bell there. That way you know when our live episodes drop. And if we're not live, the episode will be up there the next day for you to view. Same time our podcast comes out. So if you prefer to watch the podcast or watch us, you can go ahead and do that. You can see our awesome background decor. We got some nice fire going with gel, and you can check out my fireplace, I guess, with no fire in it at my house. Joe can be found at DosGel. I can be found at DosJPEG. Again, at Dead Arm Sports on all of our socials. Subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. Send us a screenshot, and you will get some swag. Joe, what are those platforms?
Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review to whatever your chosen listening platform is. You can also find us on YouTube. Search Dead Arm Sports there. Subscribe there. Hit the bell to make sure you get notifications whenever we do go live, whenever we crank out any brand new content.
Love it. All right. That does it for this episode. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Going to preview the championship games, playoff Drew locks, and shout out to Blues Clues because it is mail time, mail time, mail time. Steve. Gonna have a nice mailbag to round out the show there as well. So make sure you tune in tomorrow, and Joe, close her out.
I'm gonna let you close this out. Why don't you do that one more time?
Mail time, mail time, mail time.